Well, good morning, everyone. And how are you? Once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And we sure love you guys coming on with us when you can come on live. And I realize not everybody can do that, but we appreciate my live audience. Mike and Brahim, Andrea, Niagara Falls. Okay, I want to know your trick, you guys. Fran, Orangeville, Sandy, Minnesota, and Rain Cloud from Michigan. Good morning to you. And was that Doc McEwen? How are you? West Tennessee, Wendy, Wasaga, Rosalinda from Niagara Falls, Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Wendy from Markham, Mary from Norwich. I missed somebody there. I didn't know. I couldn't see it. Donna from Park Hill. Jeanette, how are you? And there's Kevin from Oshawa. Nellie, good morning to you. Kathy from Port Perry. Grace from sunny Newfoundland. Yeah, it's sunny in Sudbury too. Cecilia, sunny Manitoulin. Nick from our staff. Good morning. Yolande, bonjour. Marl from Ottawa, how are you? Sandy from Vancouver, Washington. Betty Lynn from Brantford. And I couldn't tell. Beverly, New Brunswick. April, good morning. And Sue, how are you? Two Sues in the row. Milika, I think. Marlene gets up into my books there and I can't see it. Nativity said, you must have missed Vince, how are you? Donna, good morning to ya. Bonnie, Forest City. Cheryl, how are you? Sue from Bolton. Diane from Thunder Bay. D'Ansel, I think. Carol, West Virginia. Suzanne, Rita. And I can't see it. Okay. Marilyn, how are you? From Edmonton. Yeah, look at those Oilers, eh? And Rosalinda, I think I said, Bonnie, Minnesota. And no, I can't see it. Oh, okay. That's my fault, guys. Maybe it's my Joanne. Okay, let's get going because, oh boy. Okay. Now, I was thinking about this. As you guys know, I went through my 50 years. A couple of weeks ago, we had celebrated our 50th year of graduation. That's a long time, isn't it? And anyway, it's quite a celebration, and it was fun to get together with some of my colleagues. And some of them I haven't seen in a lot of years. And anyway, that's not the point of this podcast this morning. I'm going back to 50 years ago. And of course, in every generation, the world changes. But I just sort of want to go over this morning big changes that I've seen in my days of practice. And the nice thing about being in practice as long as I was, you get to see a lot of things, and you get to see changes. You get to see, trends. And I really saw a lot of things that were different, okay? What we see today compared to what I saw even 50 years ago, I just thought I would sort of jot down some of the changes, okay? Now, the world wasn't perfect 50 years ago. I was reading this morning about the good old days, you know? Actually, the Bible tells you not to live in the good old days. You know, because I like history. I think you guys know that. I like the history of food even. And why we're at today, why we're there, and what's changed in food, you know, which is my specialty. So, but I don't want to live in the good old days. We live in a world today that is different, and it's the way it is. And, you know, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? Okay? But we are looking at things today that we didn't have to look at 50 years ago when I was in practice. Now, you're probably thinking a few things. Let me start off with, I got a little list here. Okay, 50 years ago, what we didn't have to deal with. The first one on the top is fatty liver. I never saw fatty liver 50 years ago. Didn't exist 50 years ago. Never studied fatty liver in school. Now, I studied cirrhosis of the liver, right? And usually alcohol caused cirrhosis of the liver. But today, that is a major, major issue. And I talk all the time about the importance of your liver. It doesn't get enough coverage. And what happens in the liver doesn't stay in the liver. It's not Las Vegas. And we call the liver, at least I do, on this program, the Costco parking lot. Your liver was never meant to be gummed up like it is today, even in children with gummed up livers. And we know the reason for it. Primarily, I read this statistic yesterday that we are consuming 3,000%. Okay, let me read it to you. We are consuming 3,000% more liquid fructose than we did 50 years ago. 3,000% more liquid fructose in the form of high fructose corn syrup, the antichrist of sugars. And it's created a phenomenon, not a good one, a very bad one. And that is fatty liver. The Costco parking lot is constantly full. The worst thing you can do is, if you think sugar is bad, which it is, your body is dedicated not to let sugar destroy your blood vessels. That's how toxic sugar is. So it must be tightly controlled. But our bodies were never designed to drink a high fructose corn syrup. You got to remember, high fructose corn syrup. Now a lot of people don't think of it as a syrup. But it is. It's liquefied. And when it's in that form, it's just like alcohol. I think we'd all agree, everybody listening this morning would agree, alcohol, be careful. Okay? You have to limit it. And it's a drug, right? It really is. And look, I'm not telling people they can't drink alcohol. I'm just telling people, I used to tell them even 50 years ago, yeah, well, your alcohol is affecting you because you've got the start of cirrhosis of the liver, because we used to when you measured enzymes, liver enzymes, you could warn people, you be careful now. But here we are today. Imagine children are walking around with fatty liver. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that this isn't a bigger news item because it's almost like, I hate to say this, but medicine generally, we bury our heads in the sand. You know what is the most expensive and fastest growing industry in North America is? It's our healthcare system. We're so stinking sick that our healthcare, so we spend more money on healthcare. And it's not healthcare at all, is it? They call it healthcare, but it really isn't. It's disease care. And if they were really concerned about kids, they would talk about this scourge in our society on a daily basis, and that is fatty liver. Because fatty liver doesn't end well if you don't fix it. And we're up 3,000% in the amount of liquefied fructose that we're consuming. I tell my grandchildren, Grandpa used to have ice cream and cookies too, I had a grandma. I had a grandma that could never say no. Okay? But we didn't live in a world that kids are living in today. That almost everything in the grocery store has added sugar to it. They can't do anything without adding sugar to it. And one of the reasons, by the way, is they took the fat out of it. Because we went silly on fat-free. And, we talked about that quite a bit, didn't we? Why? The cholesterol craze and the fat makes you fat craze. You take fat out of food, and you better add sugar in it to make it tasty. What do you think cereal companies do? And all these food companies, they have crunch specialists to get you addicted to their foods. And you got kids starting their morning with Pop-Tarts. It's insanity, folks. And the number one drink, did you know this? The number one drink in North America is what? Orange juice. As if that's good for you. It's fructose. Don't drink it. God wanted you to eat fruit. You can eat fruit. But don't drink it. Fructose goes to your liver, and your liver has paid the price. Okay? Now, I got autism next, but let me go to diabetes, okay? And I have number 3, what we didn't have 50 years ago. Did we have diabetes 50 years ago? Yes. Okay? But did we have 50% of the population with diabetes? Or what we call pre-diabetes? You know what pre-diabetes is? It's diabetes. You're on the Titanic. People are on the Titanic and they have no idea. Because medicine has been geared up for as long as I've been practicing. Medicine has been geared up to wait till you're sick. They love early detection, but they don't know a thing about prevention. The only thing medicine did right, and I agree with this, the only thing they did right in terms of prevention was telling people not to smoke. Do we all agree with that? I think we do. I don't think, and then they make marijuana legal. I don't get it. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into politics. I just want, as Dragnet used to say, that show, I remember as a kid, give me only the facts, ma'am. Give me the facts. Don't tell me a big story. But here's the facts. That 50% of our population is either a fully diabetic or they're in that high blood sugar range. And guys, like I always tell you, and I will repeat it, and repeat it. The last thing to happen is diabetes. It's never the first thing. It's the last thing to happen. Okay? So by the time you're a diabetic, you're not only on the Titanic, you've already hit the iceberg. Okay? And to connect it to our first point, diabetes and fatty liver go hand in hand because that's where diabetes begins. In the liver. When the liver gets filled up with fat, that is now no more room for storage. Insulin, remember what insulin does. Insulin is on your side, guys. Insulin's on your side, secreted from your pancreas. It's a lifesaver. But the problem is when you don't change, and when I say you guys, you know what I mean by that, okay? I'm making it personal, but I don't even mean my audience to that extent. Because you guys are smarter than that. But when I say you, I mean the world out there. We got over 4 million downloads on our podcast. So I'm talking to a lot of people that don't understand food. They don't understand how their body works. And I'm not asking them to be a rocket scientist or a physician. I'm just asking them to listen, Linda or Larry, listen, because this information is crucial. We can't wait and rely on our so-called healthcare system because it's not on our side. If you get hit by a bus, our catastrophic healthcare system is very good. Okay? But when it comes to prevention, when it comes to food, I hate to tell you, they're telling us lies. Because in the nutrition, I got taught this way, by the way. I got taught this way. It's all moderation. You're meant to eat everything in moderation. Right? We live in a different world. Moderation might have worked 50 years ago. But today we live in a different world when 93% of the population, okay, 93% of the population is upside down when it comes to their health. They have a problem with food. They have a problem with the way the body breaks that food down. They are in deep trouble, 93%, and it starts in the liver. It starts in the liver. And nobody talks about it. Well, I'm a doc. I'm not a diabetic. You really are. I used to tell patients all the time, you and carbs don't get along anymore. You like them, but they don't like you. Okay? So what has happened? Fatty liver, diabetes, and pre-diabetic. And 93% of the population, including children, are upside down. Have some form of metabolic syndrome. High blood pressure, higher than, even if it's normal, but in the higher ranges of blood sugar. High triglycerides, liver. Low HDL, liver. Okay. Belly fat, visceral fat, liver. That's what's happening in the world today. Okay? What I didn't see 50 years ago. If you would have told me 50 years ago, and remember, I got a real good background. There's no better background in diabetes than what I had because I lived with my father who was a diabetic. I watched what he did. And he got it right. And you can imagine, I go to school. In 1968, my father became a diabetic. I go to school. And they teach me moderation. But my dad said, nah, when you're a diabetic, moderation don't work no more. Son, it's called sugar diabetes. You got to cut out the sugar. I watched my dad cut it out. None. Zero. Nada sugar. My dad. And he went very low carbohydrate. My dad. 1968. That was a complete shift in his thinking. And I watched it. I didn't understand a lot of it, but I watched it. And I'm sitting in school doing this. I had a full beard when I was in school. And a big, the mustache there. Fu Manchu or whatever they called him. And I used to rub that and I go, you know what? They're teaching me something in nutrition that's not true. That's not true. You know, you had to learn about all the vitamins and you had to learn all that in nutrition and all of that was good. No problem. I like that. I just never forgot about B12 and never forgot about fat soluble vitamins and, vitamins and minerals and macros. Okay? It's good to learn all that stuff. But then you got, moderation. And your body can't live without carbohydrates. And even back in those days, red meat, you know what? And I learned all of that. Acidic. What nonsense. But that's all right. I had to pass. I had to, you had to go along, but in my mind, no. You know. Okay. Okay, let's get to another one. Number 2 here. Autism. Autism. Do you know that I never, ever studied, right up till 1974, autism? Never heard of it. I've got medical textbooks. I'm looking at a few right now that I studied with in the 70s. You could go look up autism. You wouldn't even find it in there. Under A. You know what I mean? I never studied it. And here we are today. And what are the most recent statistics? 1 out of 18. 1 out of, you see different stats, but they're pretty close. 1 out of 20 or whatever. Children that are born have autism. I saw someone the other day saying, well, that's because we can diagnose it today. Okay. Maybe. Okay? Maybe. So let's give a few percent to, we're better at diagnosing autism than we used to be. But you know what, folks? We have a pandemic today in autism. And I'm a guy goes, I told you already about diabetes and pre-diabetic. Why? Why do we see fatty liver that I never saw 50 years ago? Well, 3,000% increase in high fructose corn syrup. What is it today that we see so much autism that we never used to see? Now, you will have a school, okay, that will tell people it's the vaccines. Okay? I just want to talk about that for a minute. When I was a kid, okay, I think in general, you got 2 vaccines. Today you get 70 vaccines before you're 2 years old. Guys, look, that's controversial, okay? But I've always said that's not, it's a factor, but it's not the cause, in my opinion. Because I have been consistent. When I first saw autism, and then I started seeing it, you have to understand, guys, I was rarely ever somebody's first choice. Okay? As a practitioner. People didn't come to me first. I mean, some did, but most didn't. They were, when they were, when they couldn't get any answers, when their hormones were out of whack, or they couldn't lose weight, or, exhausted, and nobody gave them answers, guess when they came to see me? That's when. Okay? So I wasn't a primary care physician. They came to see me when they had exhausted, usually, the medical system. And then they would come to me to get answers. And I was alternative medicine, if you know what I mean. Okay? And that's all right. And I was a guy that if I saw something in my office, in my time, that changed. Like I said, I never saw fatty liver. Then I saw lots of fatty liver. Hello? What's happening? I never saw, not that I never saw diabetes, but I never saw as much diabetes as I saw, and even, what we call pre-diabetic with an elevated A1C. I never saw that in the 70s compared to what I saw in my last 20, 25 years of practice. I never saw autism. And then all of a sudden, I saw lots of it. These poor parents bringing me children, autistic. And I'm a guy goes, why is this happening? Why? And the reason I say this, okay, I'm going to give you what I always saw in autistic children. Always. I can't think of one time that I saw an exception to this. That child had leaky gut. Every time. I looked at it like an autoimmune disorder. And they were canaries in the coal mine. And I used to do history. Give me history. Give me history. Give me history. Mummy on antibiotics. Baby on antibiotics. What happened? Dysbiosis. The Trojan horse came into that little infant. A yeast, a fungus. It carried heavy metals. It carries, a yeast is a Trojan horse. I never saw an exception to it. Antibiotics. And I said this eons ago. Antibiotics, one of the greatest discoveries, and it's a statement I made on my radio show. You go back 30 years, I said this. Antibiotics are the greatest discovery of the 20th century and the curse of the 21st. It's a double-edged sword. It creates leaky gut. Yep, it kills the infection. Thank God for antibiotics. I said it. If you need an antibiotic, good for you. Take an antibiotic. I'm not against them. It's one of medicine's greatest discoveries was antibiotics. It will save your life. Hallelujah. But it creates a dysbiosis. It kills your good bacteria. And even 30, 40 years ago, I was hammering that home about the importance of replacing, regenerating, and renewing your friendly bacteria. And what I know today about bacteria compared to what I used to know, holy moly. Antibiotics. Maybe vaccines have a factor in there. Yeah. But they create leaky gut. They create an autoimmune, because that's what I see autism as, an autoimmune. It's the body turning on the body, turning on itself. The immune system goes crazy, and these little canaries in the coal mine, these children, it affects the brain. Leaky gut, leaky brain. Never saw, in my opinion again, never saw an exception to it. That's why I'm adamant. It's what I observed in my office. And you got to go to 3, but 50 years ago, what we didn't see. It's revolutionized. It revolutionized my practice, guys. When you say, the Bible says there's not, Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun. Well, there were a few things that are new, like fatty liver and autism. They're new. Okay, guys, we love you dearly. And send in your questions for question and answer Friday. Okay? And any other announcements? I can't think of any. Okay. Guys, we love you dearly. We'll talk to you soon.